Good evening and welcome to another episode of Radyo COMELEC here at Quarantalk. My name is Nicole and I will be your host for tonight. So last week, napag-usapan natin ang voter registration process para sa ating vulnerable sector. Ngayong gabi naman, ang topic natin ay ang overseas Filipino voting. So we are very fortunate to have with us our special guest, Attorney Philip Luis Marin from the Office for Overseas Voting or OFOV, and he will be sharing with us during our Inside COMELEC segment the details for registration for overseas voting, who are qualified, what are the requirements, and many more. And of course, we will also be providing you with supporting data like yung total number of overseas Filipino voters during our segment na 2 minutong datos ni Dre. Sa mga nanonood ngayon through Facebook or sa mga merong Facebook accounts, nabalitaan nyo na ba yung bagong prompt that asks you if you have already registered as a voter? And then if you click it, it will direct you to the COMELEC website. So, ihahatid sa atin ni Ate Sara ang balitang iyan along with other news and updates concerning the Commission on Elections during our segment na Balitang COMELEC. Kabataan ang pag-asa ng bayan. Yan ang sabi sa atin ni Dr. Jose Rizal. However, because of these trying times, it's quite difficult to find the strength to hope for a better future. And it's quite easier for us to just give up and not bother with the election at all. So a very motivating editorial piece prepared to us by our spokesperson, James Jimenez himself, will be shared to us during our segment called The Spokes. And hopefully, this can reignite the fire in the youth not only to register, but also to vote for a better future. Sasagutin naman nila Ms. Roxanne and Director James Jimenez ang inyong mga katanungan sa ating segment na #AskComelec. Kakaiba din ang segment na ito mamaya dahil meron tayong mga special guests na ibabahagi rin sa atin ang mga concerns nila specific sa kung saang bansa sila nakadestino since ang topic nga natin ay ang overseas Filipino voting. So tara na, simulan na natin ang episode na ito.
Radyo COMELEC sa Quarantalk. Mga dapat mong malaman dito sa Balitang COMELEC.
Magandang gabi sa lahat ng mga mananood ng Radyo COMELEC. Ako si Sarah mula sa Education and Information Department. Maghahatid sa inyo ng mga Balitang COMELEC ngayong linggo. Magandang balita para sa mga nagbabalak magparehistro, age group na papayagan lumabas ng bahay ngayong panahon ng pandemya, pinalawig ng Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases o IATF-MEID. Kabilang sinasabing age group ang mga kababayan natin na 15 years old hanggang 65 years old. Base ito sa Resolution number 79 na inilabas ng IATF nitong Huwebes, October 15. Kaya naman pwedeng-pwede na kayong pumunta sa inyong mga local COMELEC office nang walang pag-aalinlangan. Siguruhin lamang na susunod pa rin tayo sa mga minimum health and safety protocols at iba pang panuntunan na pinatutupad sa inyong lugar. At paalala po, may autoridad pa rin ng LGU na itaas ang age limit para sa minors kung kinakailangan at kung akma sa sitwasyon ng kanilang nasasakupan. Update naman po para sa mga kapatid natin sa Mindanao, formal lang itinatag ng COMELEC ang Bangsamoro Electoral Office sang-ayon sa Batas Republika bilang 11054 o ang Organic Law for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao o BARMM. Ang Bangsamoro Electoral Office ay ang dating Office of the Regional Election Director sa ARMM at ito ay nasa ilalim pa rin ng pangangasiwa at kontrol ng COMELEC. Ilan sa mga tungkulin na gagampanan ng nasabing opisina ay ang pag-accredit ng mga regional political parties na aprobado ng COMELEC at ang pagrehistro ng mga political parties na pasok sa kwalifikasyon na itatakda ng Bangsamoro Electoral Code. Ang mga karagdagang detalye ay matatagpuan sa Resolution number 10680 sa comelec.gov.ph. Matatandaan na isinagawa ang Bangsamoro plebiscite noong January 21 at February 6, 2019 upang ratipikahan ang Bangsamoro Organic Law. Sa usapin naman ng budget, proposed 2021 budget ng COMELEC deemed submitted na sa Kongreso sa pagtatapos ng budget deliberation sa House of Representatives na umabot ng alas 3 ng madaling araw nitong October 15, Huwebes. Kinakailangan po natin ito para sa mga karagdagang kagamitan at teknolohiya na ating gagamitin para masiguro na ligtas ang ating mga botante at election workers at hindi tayo nagsisiksikan sa kakaunting vote counting machine o VCM sa araw ng eleksyon. Kasama niyo po kami sa pag-abang ng favorable action sa proposed 2021 budget ng komisyon. Mayroon ba kayong kakaibang nakita sa inyong mga Facebook feeds ngayong linggo? Nitong Lunes, October 12 ay inilunsad ng Facebook Philippines ang isang voter registration reminder para sa mga Pilipinong edad 18 years old pataas. Naglalayo nitong paalalahanan ng mga Facebook users na maaaring hindi parehistrado para sila ay makaboto ngayong darating na 2022 election. Umasa po kayo na patuloy na makikipag-ugnayan ng COMELEC sa iba't ibang stakeholders upang masiguro na mas lalo namin kayong maabot ng aming mga paalala at iba pang impormasyon na inyong kinakailangan sa pagpaparehistro. At kami po ay nasa YouTube din. Mayroon ng custom URL ang ating YouTube channel na Voter Education Central para sa mga mabilisang kasagutan sa inyong mga tanong na tungkol sa pagpaparehistro. Magpunta lamang sa youtube.com/Voter Education Central. Mayroon kaming helpful video sa tamang pag-fill out ng registration forms, kung saan sila maaaring i-download at kung ano-ano nga bang forms ang kailangan niyong i-download. Siguradong magagamit niyo ang mga impormasyon na ito para sa ongoing na voter registration mula Martes hanggang Sabado, alas 8 ng umaga hanggang alas 3 ng hapon sa opisina ng election officer sa inyong lugar. At yun ang mga balitang COMELEC ngayong linggo. Muli ako si Sarah ng Education and Information Department. Tunghayan naman natin ang mga importanteng datos tungkol sa overseas voter registration dito sa 2 minutong datos ni Dre.
2 minutong datos ni Dre.
Magpapatuloy ang overseas voting registration ngayong September 1, 2020. Kung ikaw ay Filipino na 18 years old bago mag-May 10, 2022 at nasa abroad mula April 9 to May 9, 2022, ikaw ay pwedeng magparehistro bilang overseas voter. Para magparehistro, mag-set muna ng appointment sa FB page ng OFOV or Office for Overseas Voting PH. I-click ang Book Now icon. I-click ang petsa at oras kung kailan nyo nais na pumunta. Pwede rin i-scan ang QR code para makapunta sa FB page ng OFOV. Maaari ring mag-direct message sa messenger ng OFOV page. O kaya ay mag-text o tumawag sa mga contact numbers na makikita nyo sa screen. Maaari ring humingi ng appointment through email sa overseasvoting@comelec.gov.ph. Matapos makapag-book ng appointment, mag-download ng application form at i-fill out ito. Tandaan, huwag pirmahan ng Part 3 ng OVF1. Ito ay pipirmahan lamang sa harap ng COMELEC representative. Humingi ng gabay sa pag-fill out ng backpage ng OVF1. Magpadala ng advance copy ng inyong accomplished OVF form sa pamamagitan ng pag-email nito o pag-message sa FB nito. Hintayin ang confirmation ng inyong appointment. Bibigyan ng bawat aplikante ng appointment confirmation slip. Dalhin ang printed copy o screenshot ng inyong confirmation slip at ipakita ito sa security officer ng gusali. Sulatan ang health declaration form na ibibigay sa araw ng inyong appointment. Ipatutupad ang no appointment, no face mask, no face shield, no registration policy. Mainam ding magdala ng sariling ballpen. Sa araw ng inyong appointment, dalhin ang inyong appointment confirmation slip, original copy ng passport or original copy ng Seaman's Book para sa mga seafarers at ballpen. Magpunta ng maaga ng 30 minuto bago ang itinakdang appointment sa ground floor ng COMELEC Main Office sa Palacio del Gobernador, Intramuros, Manila. Upang mapanatili ang kaligtasan, panatilihin ang physical distancing, magpa-check ng inyong temperature at mag-sanitize ng kamay bago pumasok ng gusali. Pero huwag matakot dahil may inatasan ng OFOV upang regular na mag-disinfect bago ang registration. Ang pagpaparehistro ay mula 8 a.m. hanggang 4 p.m., Lunes hanggang Huwebes. Magpunta ng mas maaga ng 30 minuto sa inyong napiling schedule. Walang registration tuwing Biyernes dahil ito ang nakatalagang araw para sa disinfection ng gusali. Patuloy nating patatagin ang ating demokrasya, karapatan at tungkulin natin ang magparehistro at bumoto.
Magandang gabi mga karadyo. Ako po si Andre mula sa Education and Information Department ng COMELEC. Nandito na naman para sa 2 minutong datos si Dre. Sa linggong ito, pag-uusapan natin ng mga kababayan nating overseas voters na nagparehistro at bumoto sa mga Philippine Embassy o PE at Philippine Consulate General o PCG na nakatalaga sa iba't ibang bahagi ng mundo. Sa kabuuan, may 86 posts o consular jurisdictions na maaaring puntahan ng ating mga kababayan sa iba't ibang bansa sa bawat rehiyon ng daigdig. Naririto ang mga consular jurisdictions mula sa Asia-Pacific region. Narito naman ang mga listahan para sa European region. Ito naman para sa Middle East and African region. At ang ikahuli ay ang North and Latin American region. Ayon sa datos ng registration mula February 5, 2019, ang kabuuan ng mga overseas registered voters ay may 707,412 na kalalakihan at 1,114,981 na kababaihan na may total na 1,822,393. Malaking bahagi nito ay mula sa Middle East and African region. Ito ang top 10 na highest count ng registered voters kung saan ang Dubai ay may 209,862, ang Riyadh ay may 169,470, Abu Dhabi ay may 109,366, 103,349 naman ang mula sa Jeddah, 96,423 mula sa Kuwait, halos 88,000 mula sa Hong Kong, higit 78,000 mula sa Singapore, mahigit 59,000 mula sa San Francisco, at magkalapit ang polo ng Alcobar at Los Angeles na may tig 53,000. Aktibo din ang ating mga kababayan sa pagboto sa anumang dako ng mundo. Makikita ito sa voter turnout ng May 13, 2019 national and local elections, kung saan pinakamataas ang mga bumoto sa Hong Kong na may 36,009 votes. Sinundan nito ng Dubai na may 28,487, Singapore na may 25,110, Abu Dhabi at Kuwait na parehong mahigit 15,000 na bumoto. Mahigit 14,000 naman mula sa Riyadh, higit 11,000 mula sa Jeddah, higit 10,000 mula sa Tokyo, at parehong mahigit 9,000 mula San Francisco at New York. Mayroon din tayong iilang mga post na magsasara para sa darating na election sa 2022. Kabilang dito ang Baghdad na sasarado para sa registration and voting, Polo sa Alcobar na sarado para sa registration, at Tripoli na sarado para sa registration and voting. Sa kabilang dako naman, may mga pending din tayong post na maaaring magbukas para magparehistro at bumoto sa 2022. Kabilang dito ang Melbourne, Australia, Nagoya, Japan, Barcelona, Spain, Istanbul, Turkey, Rabat, Morocco, at Stockholm, Sweden. Dito na po nagtatapos ang aking 2 minuto. Samahan niyo po ako ulit sa susunod na linggo para sa 2 minutong datos ni Dre.
Mga kababayan sa ibang bansa, panahon na naman po para magrehistro kayo para sa May 2022 elections. Napakalaki po ng contribution nyo sa ating ekonomiya. Dapat lang pong makilahok kayo sa ating demokrasya. Huwag kalimutan, pumunta po kayo sa ating mga Philippine Embassy at mga konsulado para magparehistro para sa May 2022 elections. Maraming salamat po. Ito si Commissioner Ruan ng Commission on Elections for Overseas Voting.
Hello again. In 2019, with more than 62 million people voting, the elections achieved a credibility rating in the 80s, one of the highest on record. Despite the vocal and bitter protestations of a handful of people, and despite the dissatisfaction of others, the Filipino nation, by and large, accepted the outcome of the elections as the true will of the people. In no small measure was that triumph due to the determination of the millions of people who trooped to the polling places, stood shoulder to shoulder despite the bad weather, and cast their ballots. And of those millions, 22,083,529 came from among the ranks of the youth. In 2019, young Filipinos came out in record numbers and shook the political world to its very foundations. Look around you. From the hallowed halls of the Senate to the equally sacred municipal halls all over the country, our elected officials are younger than they have ever been. There is no accident there. That is the power of young people voting. But voting is only one thing you can do. You can do so much more. If your vote is this powerful, imagine the kind of impact you could have if you put your mind to it. There is no shortage of things that need to be done, after all. Unfortunately, our elections are under siege on multiple fronts. First, there are those who seek to undermine confidence in the electoral system and the election administrators. Failing to secure the outcomes they so dearly hoped for in the last elections, these underminers have taken to attacking the credibility of the system that dealt them their loss. This is a tactic as old as time, given new life and vitality by the power of social media, to amplify even the most baseless of conspiracy theories. Second, elections are under siege from the perennial threats of vote buying, voter suppression, and misinformation. These are the congenital ills of the electoral system, the inborn problems of democracy that can never be entirely solved but can only be contained one election at a time. Third, there is a growing cynicism among the youth, a nagging voice that whispers to them, none of this matters, so why bother? This belief that elections are unimportant for whatever reason is like a virus that spreads from person to person. This virus, though, isn't airborne. It is a social media-borne virus, for that is where it spreads most virulently. And finally, speaking of viruses, elections are also under attack from the literal virus, corona. This is far and away the most dangerous attack on the elections today. Because of the coronavirus, we can't reasonably expect elections to look as they did before. Campaigns which used to be opportunities to reach out and touch the lives and hearts of the people have suddenly become potentially fatal. And people who used to look forward to election day are now thinking twice about going to the polling places. Hell, even the registration process, where traditionally people turn out in such large numbers, even that is being adversely affected. Where they used to line up to register, people are staying home. In the last 6 weeks of voter registration, less than 500,000 people have registered or updated their registration records. With less than a year left in this registration period, we still have more than 3 million left who can register, and roughly 1 million more who need to reactivate their dormant voter registrations. If things don't pick up soon, we are looking at the possibility of having fewer voters in 2022 than we did in 2019. If all of that sounds bleak, well, I suppose it is. But as daunting as these challenges are, none of them are insurmountable, most especially not for you. And so I throw the gauntlet down before you. Instead of merely whining about the imperfections you see, I challenge you to use your vision, your inner fire, your skills, your knowledge to bear down on these many problems besetting the first elections of the pandemic era that we find ourselves in. I challenge you and your generation to lead the way forward so that the rest of us may follow. I have no doubt at all, that you are up to the task. You have to be. An entire nation is depending on you. Thank you.
Radyo COMELEC sa Quarantalk.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat and welcome to Radyo COMELEC sa Quarantalk. Ako po si Attorney Frances Aguindadao Arabe from the Education and Information Department and this is Inside COMELEC.
Halina't makipagkwentuhan dito sa Inside COMELEC.
Last episode, pinag-usapan natin ang ating mga vulnerable sectors and elections. For this episode, pag-uusapan naman natin ang ating mga overseas voters or overseas voting. Kasama natin ngayong gabi ang Attorney 6 ng Office for Overseas Voting, si Attorney Philip Luis Marin. Hi, Attorney Philip.
Hi, thank you for having us here, ang Office for Overseas Voting.
Thank
Magandang
you.
umaga, tanghali o gabi kung saan man kayo naroon.
True. Attorney Philip, thank you for coming to our show.
Yes.
We are here because we want to know more about overseas registration and as overseas voting as well.
Yes.
Pero before we proceed to the details of registration and elections, pag-usapan muna natin, ano ba yung Office for Overseas Voting? Bigyan mo naman kami ng background on how it came about.
Yeah, ang Office for Overseas Voting, o tawagin na lang natin OFOV for short, para hindi tayo paulit-ulit, ay na-create dahil sa batas na pinasa ng Republic Act 9189, which is an act providing for the overseas absentee voting of qualified Filipinos abroad and to appropriate funds for it and for other purposes. It was further amended by Republic Act 10590. Basically, ang sinasaad dito ay ang OFOV or Offices for Overseas Voting, ay ang sinasaad dito ay may mandato para ipalawak yung system, yung sinasabi ng system, that's system for registration at system for voting sa abroad. Para yung mga tao abroad, yung voters abroad, will be able to register and vote.
Okay. So you're saying na ang ating mga kababayan na nasa abroad ay pwedeng maging botante.
Yes, pwede sila maging botante.
Nag-umpisa na ba ang registration for our overseas Filipinos?
Nag-umpisa na sila. Ang opisina namin, since September 1, nag-umpisa na. At, well, due to the pandemic na suspend. Pero ngayon, October 1 na, nag-start uli ang pag-rehistro ng mga overseas voters. Yung October 1, nag-start yan sa POEA or Philippine Overseas Employment Administration dyan sa Ortigas. Noong October 6 naman, sa Marina, dyan naman sa Taft Corner, Calao.
So ito yung registration ng mga mag-abroad nating mga kababayan?
Yes.
These are the available or registration centers for our Filipinos who are going abroad to work.
Yes,
Okay.
that's true. Oo.
So, aside from the Filipinos who are here in the Philippines, yung mga Pilipino na sa abroad, pwede rin bang magparehistro?
Pwede rin magparehistro ang mga Pilipino abroad through our partner government agency, to the Department of Foreign Affairs, to their embassies, consular offices, or sa MECO. Meron din silang mga voting registration machines doon para makapagrehistro sila from post to another post or country to another country.
So, pag sinabi mong embahada, konsulado, at saka MECO, ito yung tinatawag nating Philippine Post.
Yes,
Okay,
those are the
so,
Philippine Posts
yes.
handled by the Department of Foreign Affairs. Yan.
Okay. So, we go now to the question kung sino ba itong mga qualified na magpa-register for overseas voting. Yung mga magre-register dito sa ating Office for Overseas Voting and other centers, as well as those who can register abroad in the different Philippine posts. Ano, Attorney Philip, yung mga requirements?
Dapat at least 18 years old ka at the time of the election period.
Okay.
Note lang po, ang election period po na tinutukoy sa overseas voting is 1 month or 30 days. So from the time of April 9, 2022 to May 9, 2022, pag at least 18 years old ka, pwede ka magrehistro to vote. Ngayon,
Anytime within that period?
Yes, anytime within that period. Ngayon, as long as hindi ka disqualified, di ba?
Yes.
Ano yung mga disqualification under the law? Ang disqualification, una, kung naging foreign national ka ng ibang bansa, syempre, dahil mawawala yung pagka-Philippine citizenship.
Right.
Pangalawa, if you renounce and then do an oath of allegiance sa isang foreign country, with the exception of dual citizens. Kasi ang mga dual citizens, nagre-retain yan or nagre-reacquire ng kanilang citizenship by law.
Okay.
So pwede rin ang dual citizens.
Okay.
Pangatlo, pag immigrant ka. Kasi immigrant means you're still a Filipino citizen holding a Philippine passport.
Okay.
Pang-apat, pag seafarer ka.
So, ilang posts ba to, Attorney Philip, worldwide? Hindi necessarily na lahat ng embassy ng Pilipinas, lahat ng consular office ay pwedeng magrehistro?
Now, we have 86 posts pero yung 3 suspended ang registration process. Now, we're also coming up with I think 6 more posts to service the overseas voters. So far, dahil sa pandemya ngayon, ang nangyayari pag depende sa rekomendasyon ng Department of Foreign ng mga posts ng Department of Foreign Affairs kung pwede sila magtanggap ng registration. Kasi syempre because of the pandemya, nag-a-adjust sila sa sitwasyon. So, ang pinakamaganda siguro kung ang overseas voter gustong magrehistro ay to call first before going to the post kung ano yung proseso nila sa pagrerehistro. Ang alam ko, by appointment system sila, so baka naman pwede rin mag-walk-in pero depende pa rin sa sitwasyon, depende pa rin sa sasabihin ng post.
Oo, kasi nagbabago, ano?
Yes.
Depende sa extent ng spread of the virus
Exactly.
in the area.
Lalo na pag masyadong maraming cases.
Yes, and of course, the primordial concern is the health and the safety of those who will be going to the Philippine Post.
Tama.
But anyway, our registration naman will last until kailan?
Pag ang registration natin will be from now until August 31, 2021, August 31, 2021. At yan na yung mga for transfer of registration. Oo. Ngayon, pag hindi naman transfer of registration, ang deadline will still be the same, September 30, 2021.
Okay. Before I ask you about transfer, tanungin muna kita, Attorney Philip, kung ano ba yung mga requirements ng isang magre-rehistro na overseas voter, overseas registrant. Ano yung kailangan nilang dalhin doon sa ating Office for Overseas Voting or centers or our Philippine Post?
Yes, locally kasi ang sinasabi ko nga, pag dito magpaparehistro, ang bukas lamang po ay ang Palacio del Gobernador sa ground floor. Pangalawa is yung sa Marina at sa pangatlo ay sa POEA.
Okay.
Ngayon sa Palacio del Gobernador, ang kailangan nyo pong gawin mag-book kayo ng appointment. Meron po kaming FB page, Overseas Voting PH. Sa FB page, meron ding pag pumunta ho kayo sa COMELEC website, pwede rin kayong mag-scan ng QR code. Diretso kayo sa Facebook page ng overseas voting. Doon makakapag-book ko kayo ng appointment by clicking the date and by clicking the time.
Of your preference.
Of your preference, of course. Oo, para maka-book kayo ng appointment. Ngayon, after booking an appointment, pwede ko kayo mag-download na in advance ng form para sa registration. You can do that sa comelec.gov.ph website. Just click the banner ng overseas voting. Nahandun yung OVF Form 1, OVF1. Pwede nyo kong i-download yon, pwede nyo kong fill upan on your own handwriting para makomplete yan, or pwede rin kong type-in nyo over the form at saka i-print. Ngayon, sinasabi mo kung anong kailangan dalhin. Ang kailangan dalhin sa Palasyo
In addition to the OVF form na filled out, this is advised to shorten
the stay, of course, kasi nga dahil pandemya tayo, di ba?
Para hindi na sila magtagal sa opisina ninyo.
Oo.
Mas maganda may dala ng OVF form.
Exactly, tama. At saka hindi na kayo, the hassle of going there, tapos mag-fill up pa kayo ng form, magkakamali pa kayo or what. At the comforts of your home, you can actually complete the form by your own self, and then bring it. Diba? Bring it to the office, to the ground floor of Palacio del Gobernador. Ano pa ang kailangan yung dalhin?
Ano pa?
Ang kailangan yung dalhin is your valid original passport. Okay? And then, kasi itong form na to, napilapan nyo, padadala nyo to private message or direct message, yung completed form sa FB page namin, at maghintay lang po kayo ng tinatawag naming appointment confirmation slip. Pag meron na ho kayong appointment confirmation slip na padadala ng OFOB, ay i-print lang po ito, dalhin to together with the form. Okay? Na ngayon, meron din to dahil sinasabing to avoid or to prevent or to promote health standards, baka gusto nyo rin ho, although meron naman po doon, pero baka gusto nyo ho magdala ng sarili nyong ballpen. Black or blue ang nire-require namin. Para alam nyo, para for safety reasons din po kasi, mas maganda kung may sarili kayong ballpen to use during the registration. Yun po yung mga kailangan dalhin. Ngayon kung seaman kayo, seafarer, syempre ang kailangan din po na additional would be the seaman's book na ini-issue ng Marina. Yun po ang mga kailangan pong dalhin.
Additional yung seaman's book.
Seaman's book pag seafarer ka.
To the passport.
Yes.
So, itong mga nagre-register sa Office for Overseas Voting or OFOB, ito yung mga lalabas ng bansa. Tama ba?
Yes.
They are going abroad and they are expecting na doon na sila boboto sa ibang bansa pagdating ng araw ng eleksyon. Kaya ngayon pa lang, habang nasa Pilipinas sila at alam naman nila na pupunta na sila sa ibang bansa at doon sila until election day, they might as well register now at the Office for Overseas. Kung hindi sila nakapagparehistro dito at nasa abroad na sila.
Kung nasa abroad na sila at pwede pang magrehistro through the post sa mga
so,
sa DFA.
Ito na yung sinasabi natin na currently the 83 posts that are open and functioning for
83, yes. 83 active
overseas
posts.
Filipinos.
Yes.
Ano yung requirements? Pareho lang din ba for the Philippines?
Parehas din. They have to bring their own passport. And then, usually yan by appointment din. So they really need to check with their embassies, post or consular offices kung anong nire-require ng DFA para makapagrehistro sila doon sa mga post-consular offices or sa MECO. Yun ang kanila. Pero just to make things clear, yung aming FB page and everything will be only applicable to the Palacio del Gobernador office. Now, in terms of the POEA and in terms of the Marina, may sarili-sarili din ho silang mga appointment system. So, ang nangyayari po sa Marina at saka sa POEA, ini-encourage din namin yung mga nahandun na who was able to set an appointment to also register, especially if they know that they will be voting or they will be out of the country while the election period is ongoing. Parang ganun. So, kung makakapag-register sila sa Marina, POEA, or even dito sa Palacio del Gobernador, tapos na-register sila, they can vote from April 9 to May 9 of 2022.
So, ang voting time sa abroad ay isang buwan.
Isang buwan.
Oo.
Klaro tayo dyan. 30 days. 30 days ang ating voting period for overseas voting.
Question, Attorney Philip. Paano yung mga paalis pa lang sa bansa pero hindi naman nila talaga alam yung exact address nila sa abroad? Hindi pa nila alam. Pwede pa rin bang mag-register yun?
Yes, pwede pa rin sila mag-register. Pag nasa abroad na sila, they can update.
Oh.
They can update their registration form to the embassy also.
Okay.
Or kung nandito pa sila, they can also update through here, di ba?
Okay. As soon as they get hold of their address.
Yes. Ang importante lang, they will be able to update it before August 31,
Okay.
2020.
Before the deadline.
2021. Before the deadline.
Of registration.
Oo.
I see. Attorney Philip, so in summary, ano-ano tong mga transactions na available sa Philippine Post at saka sa OFOB, sa Marina, at saka sa POEA para sa ating mga overseas Filipinos?
Nakasaad naman yan sa sa OVF Form 1, no? Pero ang main talagang pinipilapan doon is yung transfer from post to post or country to country or post to local where the overseas voter has lived or has resided, and post to local where he or she will newly reside. Aside from that is yung updating ng mga pangalan. Pag ganyan na updating ng pangalan, syempre may special requirement yun. Dapat ipakita mo yung PSA birth certificate original issued birth certificate, ano. Tapos kung kunyari married ka na, napalitan yung pangalan mo to your last name, di dapat meron ka rin papakita na marriage certificate, di ba? Kung kunyari naging single ka, na-annul yung marriage mo, tapos naging single ka uli, ang pwedeng mangyari niyan is yung order ng nullity mo, pakita mo, or yung Senomar, yung ini-issue Senomar ng PSA is also valid, no? Maraming mga pwedeng i-update. Basta you're allowed to update your registration details as long as it's within the updating period. Huwag lang lalagpas, as I've said, transfer of registration dapat hanggang August 31, 2021. Other than that, up to September 30, 2021. Yun.
Okay. So yung transactions are 1, new registrant, transfer
of registration, updating of details. So,
updating or correction.
Yes.
Meron bang reactivation?
Merong reactivation and deactivation. Parang ina-update mo rin yung kwan mo niyan eh.
I see.
Oo, ina-update
Okay.
mo rin yan.
So lahat yan pwedeng gawin sa ating mga posts.
Pwedeng process yan sa ating mga post. Yes.
Ito, Attorney Philip, ang madalas tanungin sa amin sa EID. Nasa Pilipinas ako, mag-a-abroad ako kasi pipirma na ako ng kontrata ko next week. So I expect na by May 2022 ay nasa abroad na ako. For instance, nasa Jeddah na ako. Pwede ba akong mag-rehistro ngayon dito sa Pilipinas pero para makaboto ako sa Jeddah?
Pwede. Yun nga ang aming ginagawa ngayon sa mga POEA, Marina, sa OWA, sa CFO. Yun ang kinukonvince namin yung mga tao na mga botante, overseas voters, na kung aalis sila at alam nilang nandun sila abroad para during the voting period, April 9 to May 9, 2022, mag-register na, magpa-transfer na ng registration dito pa lang. Oo, kasi ang katulad ng sinasabi ko, pag umabot na ng deadline at hindi kayo nakapag-rehistro, hindi na kayo makakaboto. So kung meron naman kayong paraan para mag-rehistro dito, para makaboto abroad through Palacio del Gobernador, so currently through Marina at saka sa POEA, gawin nyo na.
Okay. So whether this is a new registrant or transfer, pwede.
Pwede.
Tapos boboto ako sa abroad during the election period.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Baliktarin naman natin, Attorney Philip. Ako ay nag-work ngayon sa abroad. Kunyari, sa Hong Kong. Kaso matatapos na yung contract ko next year. Mga December. So gusto ko pag-uwi ko sa Philippines, makaboto naman ako. Pwede bang doon sa Hong Kong, sa Philippine host natin doon, i-transfer ko na yung registration ko, kunyari sa Muntinlupa, nung ako uuwi, para come May 2022, makaboto naman ako.
Ang reckoning period niyan kung kailan ka darating sa Pilipinas, ano? Ngayon kung ang importante kasi sa pagta-transfer ng registration from post to local or post to local ay yung personal appearance mo before the election officer. Kasi kukuha ka ng biometrics uli niyan eh. Ngayon, that is within the registration period uli. So kung magpapatransfer ka, as inuulit ko, hanggang August 31, 2021 lang. So dapat bago yung date na yon nakapag-biometrics ka na, nakapag-take ka na ng oath sa election officer para ma-include ka sa listahan ng pwedeng bumoto. Okay. Otherwise, if beyond that period or deadline, I'm sorry to say pero hindi kayo makakaboto.
O since uuwi ako ng December, hindi na ako aabot sa registration sa local kasi ang end is September 30, 2021.
Ang end is August 31 kasi nagpapatransfer ka di ba? Nagpapatransfer ka ng registration August 31. Most likely hindi na kayo makakaboto pag ganoon.
Pero kung ang uwi ko ay January 2021, pwede pa register. So ang registry, ang transfer ko na ay sa Office of the Election Officer na.
Yes.
Okay, so aalis na lang ako sa Hong Kong, uwi ako sa Pilipinas, at pupunta ako sa Office of the Election Officer.
Yes.
Para magparehistro.
Lilinawin ko lang, unawain lang po natin kung bakit tayo nagkakaroon ng deadline na ganito. Kasi hindi lang naman mahaba kong proseso yan eh. Inaayos ho natin yung listahan ng mga voters. Okay? Pagka-aalamin din ho natin yung bilang para sa pag-iimprenta ng balota. Pag masyadong malapit na sa eleksyon, delikado ho. Kaya ho nagsiset ang komisyon ng deadline para lahat ng mga botong nasa listahan ay mabilang at makaboto.
Let's go naman, now we're done with registration. Pag-usapan din naman natin yung voting system pagdating sa mga overseas voters natin. I think many would be surprised to know na pwede pala silang bumoto kahit nasa ibang bansa na sila.
Yes,
and then especially the dual citizens, pwede pala silang bumoto using their Philippine passport. How is it different from our local voting, yung overseas voting naman? Ano ang proseso or sistema ng pagboto naman abroad?
Sa pagboto abroad, we rely on the recommendation ng Department of Foreign Affairs kung anong mode of voting ang sasapat sa mga jurisdiction ng mga bawat post. Usually, sinasabi yan ng DFA a year or more than a year bago magkaroon ng eleksyon. Kasi para to prepare all the ballots and postal packets. So ang nangyayari dyan, it's either mag-personal voting ka, which is usually nangyayari sa post sa Middle East, or postal voting, which is pinaprepara namin ang postal packets at minimail namin sa mga addresses ng mga overseas voters na gustong bumoto to mail. Ang kwan niyan, kaya nga 30 days din kasi nga minimail pa nila yung mga kanilang mga boto din at binibili.
The ballots mismo, Attorney Philip, are mailed to
Yes,
them?
the ballots are being mailed to them tapos they mail it sa embahada or sa post para ang embahada magbubukas and magba-batch counting sila, batch feeding para malaman kung ano yung resulta ng election doon sa jurisdiction nila.
So dapat pala tama yung address nila sa kanilang registration para siguradong ma-receive nila yung ballot nila for election day.
Totoo. Dapat updated. Wag lang kung pwedeng kumpleto yung address, mas maganda para siguradong darating yung mga mail packets sa kanilang mga addresses.
Yung mail packets ba may kasamang return envelope?
Yon ang wala pa. Yon ang wala.
Question ng maraming kababayan natin na kung meron bang kasama itong return envelope or gagastos pa kami sa pag-mail.
So far wala. Ang pinapadala lang namin yung mail packets pero they have to either personally bring it sa
Okay.
sa embahada kung malapit naman sila, or mail
Drop
it
it off.
or mail it back to
Or
the
mail it back.
embassies or the post.
Is there a certain deadline for mailing it?
Dapat ma-reach ng ma-reach sa embahada yung at least on or before the end of election period, which is May 9, 2022.
Nangyayari ba na merong mga ballots na hindi umabot sa counting or sa canvas?
Merong nangyayari, lalo na pag masyadong gahol na sa oras yung post. Depende kasi sa postal system ng bawat bansa. Kasi minsan may mga occasions na minail nila a week or Siyempre, depende sa sistema ng postal system ng bansa. Pag dumating yung mail or yung mail ballot dun sa embahada, ay kung tapos na, kunyari 2000, May 9 ang end, pero dumating ng May 11, talagang hindi na mabibilang.
So advice natin sa ating mga overseas voters to make sure that they mail back kung imi-mail man nila, they should be mailed early enough to make it to the voting period.
Yes, the voting period again is April 9 to May 9.
Yes.
So kung ma-receive na nila kaagad yung mga balota nila, fill up na nila kaagad, email na nila pabalik, or even personal, kung malapit lang, dali na nila.
Dali na nila para siguradong mapabilang.
Eksakto.
Okay. So what about any other mode of voting? Kasi pandemic, Attorney Philip, di ba? Meron ba tayong na-explore na ibang mode?
Meron so far tayong inaaral kasi sa batas naman, tama yung sinabi mo, exploration. So we're, yung office, yung commission, together with, of course, our CIC commissioner in charge, Commissioner Rowena Guanzon, is looking or studying the possibility because we're still studying it, no, of online registration and online voting or online sharing of biometrics data. So far, it's in the discussion or the technical working group stage. Pero we're doing that in order to enhance the voting experience of the overseas voters para maging mas madali, para mas maging safe yung paraan ng pagre-rehistro at paraan ng pagboboto. Siyempre Francis, maraming marami pang pag-aaral na dapat gawin, marami pang it's not only on how to implement it, but we're actually studying or reviewing through the information technology department the compatibility of the systems of each agencies, kung pwede mag-data sharing, kung pwede ma-transfer itong biometrics na to dun sa isang biometrics, and also considering we're also involving the legal departments of these agencies to study on the privacy issues of sharing these data with one another.
Oo, may clamor kasi for online voting.
Yes, yes.
Maraming mga netizens na nagtatanong from abroad asking if there is a possibility for online voting, and that came also after the announcement of our Commissioner Maria Rowena Gonzon that there is exploratory talks on sharing the data of the DFA, yung mga nasa pasaporte, with COMELEC para maibsan na yung pila sa registration at sila na lang ay mag-register remotely.
Yeah, that's an initial stage, and we're not we're still studying it, and we're not limiting it through DFA kasi I've heard ng PSA, ang PSA is now implementing its national ID system. So kailangan bangga-banggain natin yan, Francis, to different government agencies. Lalo na ngayon, ang PSA is, I think, starting to implement its national ID system. Baka pwede rin mag-link yung mga agencies. Marami kasi sa mga ibang bansa ang gumagawa na yan already, na nagle-link ng system para ma-assist yung mga botante nila.
We look forward to all these plans that the OFOM has.
Sana.
To make it easier for our overseas voters.
Yun naman din ang mandate namin, to make it efficient, to make it economical for overseas voters to vote. Yun na ang mandate ng opisina. Oo.
I think na with that, no, our overseas voters will feel na importante din yung vote pala nila, no? Because they think that they are such a minority and it will not matter kung bumoto sila o hindi. Totoo ba yun?
Actually, sa totoo lang, after cleansing the votes of our overseas voters, we come up with more or less 1.2 million voters na cleansed na.
Mm-hmm.
So yung 1.2 na yun, worldwide na yon. Tapos ang DFA is targeting to register more from now until the end of registration period. Ang last before the pandemic kasi nasabi nila about 1.8 to 2, pero hindi natin alam, pero at least they're increasing the registration proceeding. Imagine na lang, Francis, on a national level, 1.2 or more votes will make or break a national position, di ba? Whether it's a president or vice president, party list, or senators, Oo.
So the votes of our overseas voter
matters. It's really relevant. They can make or break a leader of our country.
Okay, Attorney Philip, having said that, we would also like to ask you for a few words or a message to our viewers, especially our overseas voters and the public in general, from the Office of Overseas Voting.
Okay, maraming salamat sa EID, sa Education and Information Department, for giving us the opportunity to inform the overseas voters on how to register and vote. On behalf of the Commission and on behalf of our Commissioner in charge, Commissioner Rowena Guanzon, we invite all the Filipino overseas voters to register and vote. Just as what I said before, your votes count and your votes can make or break a leader of our country. Hopefully po, sana ay makapagrehistro kayo. At kung kayo ay interesado kung magrehistro at gusto niyo po kung malaman kung saang pwede magtanong, ay pumunta lang ho kayo sa Facebook page ng Overseas Voting PH or mag-text or tumawag ho sa mga numerong ito. 8521-2952, 8522-2251. Yan po ang aming mga landline. Ngayon kung meron naman kayong mobile na Globe or TM, pwede ko kayo mag-text o magtumawag sa 0905-034-5158. At kung Smart Sun or TNT naman ang iyong number, you can call 0951-875-9882. So again, sana po makapagrehistro tayo from today up to August 31, 2021 para sa transfer of registration kung magpapatransfer kayo, or up to September 30, 2021 kung hindi transfer of registration. At remember po, ang pagboboto uli, election period is April 9, 2022 to May 9, 2022. Pag nakuha nyo ho yung balota ninyo, kung pwede ho, lalo na sa mga mailing packets, sana po i-accomplish nyo agad at email pabalik nyo. Kung malapit naman kayo sa embahada, pwede nyo dalhin doon para i-deposito during the election period po. Sana po maging safe tayo lahat. Let's practice social distancing. At don't worry po sa lahat ng mga registration centers po dito sa Pilipinas. At I'm sure sa DFA din, merong mga health staff or health marshals na would also monitor social distancing at saka yung sanitizing, katulad sa Palasyo del Gobernador. Again po, maraming salamat.
Thank you, Attorney Philip Luis Marin, our
My
Attorney
pleasure.
6
Yes.
of the OFOB. We would also like to thank Attorney Sonia Bea Vilazada and Commissioner Maria Rowena Amelia V. Guanzon. And that is Inside COMELEC.
Radyo COMELEC sa Quarantalk.
Mga kababayan sa ibang bansa, Panahon na naman po para magrehistro kayo para sa May 2022 elections. Napakalaki po ng contribution nyo sa ating ekonomiya. Dapat lang pong makilahok kayo sa ating demokrasya. Huwag kalimutan, pumunta po kayo sa ating mga Philippine Embassy at mga konsulado para magparehistro para sa May 2022 elections. Maraming salamat po. Ito si Commissioner Rowena Guanzon ng Commission on Elections, Office for Overseas Voting.
Maraming salamat po, Attorney Philip, for educating us regarding overseas voting. So, nakita natin na talagang mahalaga ang boto ng ating overseas voters. Every vote counts. Mahalaga rin na natutunan natin ang proseso at registration period. Kadalasan kasi, hindi tayo nakakapagpa-register dahil hindi natin alam kung paano at kulang tayo sa information. Kaya maganda talaga itong programang ginawa ng COMELEC para ma-educate ang mga kababayan natin at hindi na ito maging hadlang para makapagparehistro. So, para sa ating susunod na segment, sasagutin na po ni... Okay, para sa ating susunod na segment, sasagutin na po ang inyong mga katanungan nila Miss Roxanne and Director James Jimenez, ang inyong mga katanungan. So, meron din po tayong mga special guests dito sa segment na ito. Ito na po ang hashtag AskComelec.
Mga katanungang dapat sagutin, hashtag AskComelec na.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. We are here again in our Q&A portion, which, happens to be my favorite, except when Director James is not here because of the poor internet connection. But Director James is here, so hello.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
I'm happy to see you. I'm good. How are you?
I'm getting by. Grabe, no? Dami pa ko ngayon sa Radyo COMELEC. The bumpers that we have, they're getting better. I think that because we've been doing this for how many episodes have we done this? 4 episodes, I think. So
This is the fourth.
yeah, this is the 4th. So it's great, it's great. And now I hear that we have a lot of questions. And meron pa tayong international audience. So,
Oo nga. So that's very exciting.
okay. So should we get to it?
Evening,
Yeah.
Sir James, and greetings to the Philippine Consulate General in Jeddah, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. This is Consul Jen Ingal, and I would like to pose to you a question that is not only timely and relevant. Sir, with the onset of the pandemic, naging malaking challenge po sa amin dito sa Philippine Consulate General in Jeddah na ma-meet po ang aming set targets for registration. Meron bang mga hakbang na inihanda ang COMELEC o ang tinatawag natin na mga creative means para matulungan niyo po kami na maabot ito? Yun lang po, sir, at maraming salamat sa inyo.
Maraming salamat also, no? And it's so great to hear from the Philippine posts abroad. Sila yung talagang nasa frontline natin, ano? In a sense, they're frontliners also. And yung question ni Consul Jen is very critical kasi tama siya. Dahil sa pandemya, medyo nahihirapan tayo mag-reach out sa mga kapatid nating butanta na overseas. But dito sa atin, dito sa Pilipinas, isa sa mga tinitingnan natin kung magkakaroon tayo ng isang parang advertising campaign. No? It's a little expensive, but we think it will be worth it if we can get into partnerships with all sorts of different cause-oriented groups, different broadcast that will help us all reach out to our kabayans abroad. Of course, ibang level din yung campaign strategies na mga posts, no? And the posts really come up with means like that. posts, and maybe some people can actually try to share best practices. But what I've seen in other posts is that they really actively engage the community through Facebook. No? Kasi lalo na sa mga foreign countries, lalo kung magkakalayo yung mga Pilipino, yung Facebook lang talaga yung glue nila eh. No? Diyan sila nagkikita, diyan sila nag-organize. I think an approach Facebook or even social media would be very welcome to our kababayans. I think that would be the most helpful way of reaching out to the kababayans so that they meet their registration targets.
Yeah, I agree, Director James, kasi you touched on a very important topic nowadays, di ba? Everyone is connected, especially because of the pandemic. And so far, lahat tayo, we have our own, parang we use our social media platform as our platform for whatever advocacy that we would like to promote. So it's really a good information, parang campaign or information drive we can do also for Filipinos who are living in other countries. Next question.
Okay.
Let's put up the next question on screen. So the next question is from Bernice Chandra Pisico. Do I need to submit my birth certificate for age verification, even if I already have my passport? I'm a first-time voter, just turned 18, and I was enticed by my mom to vote here in Italy.
Well, good for your mom. Good for your mom. Congratulations. But here's the thing, Bernice. You can be issued a passport even if you're a newborn. So having a passport really doesn't mean that you're 18. No? And if there's any doubt at all that you're 18 years old, then of course the best way to resolve that. In general, I think you will be required to produce a valid ID to show a valid ID. So you might actually have to produce your birth certificate. Unless your age is called into question, then yes, you will have to show a valid birth certificate. But in general and normally speaking, I don't think that would be a requirement at all. Most important point here is passport doesn't necessarily mean you're 18 years old.
Okay, so just bring a valid ID. Next question is from Jonathan Kasuga. Wala pong registration dito sa Alcobar. Saan po ang pinakamalapit naming puntahan?
Jonathan, pinakamaganda talaga ay sumulat ka sa Polo sa Alcobar at kung walang malapit na registration center diyan sa kinaroroonan mo, what you can do is you can request for field registration. Nasusulat ka dun sa Polo, sa Alcobar, or sa PE or BCP na nagko-cover sa inyo, and then request kayo ng tinatawag nating field registration. Okay, sila yung lapit sa inyo, pupunta sa naroroonan nyo, and then doon na lang kayo magpaparehistro.
Okay. Next question is from Consul General Robert Ferrer from the Philippine Embassy in Moscow.
Oh, Moscow.
Moscow.
I can't hear him.
Yeah, I know. There must be a problem with the audio. Can you put it up again?
До свидания.
Siguro while they're fixing it.
Yeah.
Magandang
Maybe we can go to another question.
gabi. Kung nasaan man po kayo, this is Robert Ferrer Jr., Deputy Chief of Mission and Consul General dito po sa Philippine Embassy sa Moscow. We cover also Armenia, Belarus, and Kazakhstan. So my question po is, ano na po ang latest doon sa remote registration? Because pinag-usapan po namin yan last year during one of our online kapihans na magkakaroon ng remote registration, possible e-registration. So yun ang tanong po namin, kumusta na po ang latest dyan at kailan po i-roll out? Yung
Okay.
second question po namin is ano na po ang status ng national ID system and paano po yung transition ng COMELEC voters ID na ita-transition into a national ID system. So yun lang po, and God bless po, mabuhay kayong lahat.
Yes. Thank you very much, Consul General. Now, noong una niya sinabi yung remote registration, I thought he meant yung mga yung mga field registration. Banggitin ko na rin kasi when you say field registration, ay nire-request po yan eh. Nire-request yan sa atin, and kapag in-approve ng DFA OVS at ng COMELEC and bank, then mapupondohan yan and then tuloy yung field registration. But towards the end of his question, nadinig ko binanggit niya e-registration. So I think what he means when he says remote registration is yung online registration na sinasabi dito sa Pilipinas. No? Yung online registration. So ngayon, Consul General, hindi pa yan ready. Okay? Meron tayong hinahanda yung rehistro, and hopefully it launches next week, but limited scope lang yan. Eventually, we hope by early next year, ma-expand na yung coverage niyan, and it will allow people to fill up the forms online. No? It's not complete e-registration, but getting there. So slow by slow lang tayo, Conjen, no? Unti-unti nating inaabot ng biometrics. Yung requirement kasi ng biometrics, medyo mahirap bunuin eh. No? There's really only one practical way of doing that now. That's to appear in person. Pero yun nga, as far as e-registration is concerned, it's launching really, really soon. Okay? The second part of the question was national ID system. Unfortunately, bagamat kasama naman tayo sa discussions tungkol sa national ID system, talagang yung progress na nakadepende sa gumagawa ng ID system, no? And part of the version of that's national ID system, PSA, or Philippine Statistics Authority. Now, what I know is that they will be starting the process of pre-registration. Pre-registration in small pilot area. Sila doon gagawa na sila ng mga registration forms para doon sa mga nakatira doon sa mga bahay na yun. Forward for the step. Okay? That will start late October, and hopefully tuloy na yan so that next kahit paano gumugulong na yung proseso, no? But realistically speaking, are we gonna have a national ID soon? Medyo malabo pa. As for connection between the national ID and voter ID system, and medyo aalamin pa natin yan, no? We're gonna have to find out how it goes. Yung hinahanap ng national ID at voter ID, yung voter ID is voter ID, ang focus din is residency status, no? Identity and residence ang status. Possible to get together, so medyo mahabang usapan pa yan. So again, stay tuned for that.
Okay. Next question is from Therese Acosta. May possibility ba na magkaroon ng non-paper voting o yung paggamit ng tablets para sa paperless na po sana?
Rox, I don't know if you remember, but in 2018, we actually tried paperless voting. No, we tried it in Mindanao, and nakita natin hindi maganda experience natin doon. Marami sa mga kababayan natin ang nahirapan sa paggamit ng paperless voting. Sanay kasi sila na may hinahawakan papel eh. Although, problema natin pag walang papel, mahirapan ka mag-recount. Kasi yung paperless voting, once you vote on script and you send, nandun na. Yung electronic ballot mo is somewhere else. You cannot easily count electronic ballot. Ito, of course, may mga ibang paraan, pero medyo masalimuot yung usapin na yan. So, again, looking at the system ng majority ng Pilipino, medyo magbabagal muna tayo sa paperless solutions. Doon sa paper-based, mas madaling gamitin ng mga botante Pilipino. Based para mas madaling kami Pilipino. Kasi may aming Pilipinong hindi sanay sa press.
Yeah, kasi syempre kailangan pa ng digital literacy siguro, no?
Exactly.
Kasama nun. So, aside from that, it's gonna entail a lot of budget. Anyway, next question is from Dario Sarangquin from Riyadh. Magkaroon po sana ng special registration day dito sa Middle East. Friday lang mostly ang off namin at wala ring opisina sa consul.
Again, you have to address your concerns to the Consul General's office or PCG. Kasi sila talaga yung nagpapatakbo niyan eh. It's ng konti kasi alam ko ang standard operating practice ng ating mga field posts abroad is that doon sila may pasok pag walang pasok yung Pilipino sa mga trabaho nila. So kunyari, in this case, no, walang pasok sa Friday. Yung meron sa Friday para makapasok, nakakapunta doon sa consulate. So, paki-check na lang, Daryl. Maybe pwede mong tawagan, verify mo kung available ba yung consulate. And mas surprise na may pasok the consul, DA folks, they're serve the Filipinos. They're there to serve the kababayans. Kaya, I think makikita mo may pasok mga Filipinos natin because they serve the Filipinos there. So, pagkaraniwan, kapag walang pasok yung Pilipino, yung consul meron. Para makakapunta sila doon sa consular offices. Try mo. Tawagan mo muna.
Okay. Next question is from...
Magandang gabi po, Mr. Spokesperson. This is Lilibeth Diapera from the Philippine Consulate in Macau. Ang katanungan lang po ng ating mga botante o registered voters dito sa Macau ay kung ano ang dapat nilang gawin ngayong sila ay napilitang umuwi sa Pilipinas dahil po alam naman natin na ang epekto ng pandemic ay nasira ang mga maraming ekonomiya, no? So, ganun din po ang Macau. Marami po tayong mga kasama na napilitang umuwi ng Pilipinas, pero sila po ay sinabihan na pagkaayos ng ang bagay-bagay dito, ay kukunin uli sila. Ang ano po nila, ayaw po nilang mawala ang kanilang right to vote. Kaya po ang ano nila, when are they supposed to register sa Pilipinas, kung ang hinaharap ay maaring umalis uli sila at maaring
Hindi ko na narinig yung last part.
by the time na magkaroon na
ng
trabaho sila sa labas ng bansa, ay tapos na yung registration dito sa ating teritoryo o kung saan mga bawat bansa sila mapunta. Salamat po.
Thank you. Rox, I turned off my video kasi yung signal ko eh. I think I have a face for it. Question ko dyan, Lilibeth, that's a very good question. And
you're a bit happy though.
Hinaharap yung isa yan ng ating mga kababayan overseas, no? Pinawi sila and hindi nila kung and in that
I think we lost Director James. So our team will try to contact Director James as we speak. It's very apt, no? Kasi, okay, I think we have him. Are you
Hi,
back?
am I back?
Okay, great.
Or-
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. Apparently I have a face for radio. So, ganito, the question of Conjen Lilibeth is very timely because tama siya eh, no? Because of this pandemic, people have been sent home and they don't know kung kailan sila makakabalik. So, it's a very real question kung kailan sila magpaparehistro. But it's hard to give them a blanket answer. Mahirap sumagot. Kasi hindi talaga natin alam kung kailan sila pababalikin eh. So medyo mahirap magbigay ng advice sa kanila as to kailan sila dapat magparehistro at saan. So ang pinakamagandang advice na mabibigay natin sa kanila is alamin nila yung circumstansya din ng kanilang pagbabalik. Kunwari, meron silang solid commitment sa kanilang employers na pababalikin sila by a certain date. Yun ang i-check nila against the deadlines, no? Kung aabot sila sa Pilipinas or aabot sila sa pagpaparehistro, then by all means, parehistro na overseas. Pero kung walang kasiguruhan yung pagbabalik, and that's the case with many of our Filipino overseas workers, is that it's not sure kung kailan sila babalik, no? Well, baka naman pwedeng dito ka na muna bumoto. So, ultimately, it's a question of ano yung chances na makakabalik ka kaagad at kailan. Kasi yun lang ang magiging basihan natin to say kung kailan ka magpaparehistro at saan ka magpaparehistro.
Siguro it's too early to say given the uncertainty. Kasi like my uncle, diba, he used to live in Kuwait for many years. And then recently he just came home, I think last month. So he doesn't know when he will go back to Kuwait or if he's gonna stay here na for good. So I think planning lang talaga is key, no? For now.
Yep,
Okay.
that's true.
Let's move on to the next question. It's from Alvin Barnakea. Isa po akong seaman at kasasampa lang po sa barko. Pwede po ba kaming magparehistro sa kahit anong embahada just in case na may malapit po sa pier na bababaan namin?
Yes, ang alam ko pwede kang magparehistro sa embassies kasi ang ating seamen, they essentially can vote anywhere eh, no? Kahit sa ang port of call na merong embassy or consulate na pwede silang bumoto, ina-accommodate sila nung embassy or consulate na yon. So it follows that you can also register, but you have to specify that you are a seafarer para malaman nila na medyo special case kayo.
Okay. Next question. Do we have another question? Okay. Good evening. Before I go back to the Philippines, may I already file for transfer here so it is recorded and will not have to go to the City Hall?
Medyo malabo po yan, ano? Dahil ang isa sa mga requirements ng registration natin dito ay appearance before the election officer, and that holds for transfers as well. Kailangan kasi i-verify yung residence at yung identity mo na rin, no? So, best bet is to just wait until you return to the Philippines and then dito na kayo magparehistro. Total, safe naman yung registration dito sa Pilipinas, and maiyabang ko lang, Rox, no, na we've been holding registration for the last 6 weeks now, and until now wala pa rin tayong nare-report na cases of COVID transmission in any of our offices, and that's nationwide, no? So I think yung mga kababayan natin, they can come to our registration centers here in the Philippines with full confidence that they will be safe.
Mm-hmm. That's good news. Kasi, di ba, meron pa kayong disinfection days in your COMELEC offices. And no face mask.
Disinfection natin actually. So
yeah.
I think that's working wonders now.
Okay. So there's nothing to worry about. Next question is from Riza Velasco Ebreo. Meron po bang registration online? Paano po kaya? Thank you po. Please answer our question.
Yes, we will answer your question. Wala pa pong registration online. No? We're working towards it. Tinatrabaho natin yan para ma-achieve natin yan. Pero sa ngayon, ang kailangan nyo antabayanan ay yung paglalabas ng ating iRehistro. Yung iRehistro po ay isang website po yan kung saan dyan nyo pwedeng fill upan yung inyong mga application forms. Pero ultimately, kailangan nyo pa rin pumunta sa opisina ng COMELEC para magpa-biometrics. At least, kung magawa nyo na yung forms nyo online, medyo iikli yung panahon na ilalagi nyo sa COMELEC office, mas safe po tayong lahat pag ganun. Pero yung, sabi natin, online registration from start to finish, medyo wala pa po tayo dyan. Although, again, like I said, huwag kayong mawawalan na pag-asa, tinatrabaho po natin yan, pinag-aaralan natin na maigi kung paano natin ma-achieve yan.
On top of that, they can also book an appointment, di ba? Para they can be prioritized when they go to the COMELEC office. Yeah. Okay. Do we still have questions? Question is from JJ Mintos. Paano pag hindi kami nakatanggap ng mail pockets? Sa lahat ba ng bansa available ito o selected lang?
Yung mail voting is specific to a particular location. Ano? Ahead of time, ina-announce ng COMELEC kung saang bansa nagkakaroon ng postal voting. So, the minute you get notice na magkakaroon ng postal voting sa bansa ninyo, kung nasaan kayo, communicate with your embassy kaagad or with your consulate para sure kayo na updated yung address ninyo, alam nila saan padadala yung mail packet ninyo, at alam nilang hinihintay ninyo. Isa sa pinakamalaking problema natin, Rox, pagdating sa postal voting, sometimes hindi updated yung mga address ng mga kababayan natin. People who live abroad, who work abroad, sometimes they move, they change addresses, and nakakaligtaan nilang i-inform yung embassy or consulate na nag-iba na sila ng address. As a result, nagkakaroon tayo ng cases kung saan yung mga mail packets nila, yung mga voting packets nila, ay napapadala sa lumang address or sa maling address. Kaya hindi nila natatanggap. No? So again, when we make the announcement as to the countries that will be voting by mail, please, and then we will announce that, no? Ilalabas natin yan in a major way para marinig ng lahat, no? Para malaman ng lahat. Please, take the initiative, mag-coordinate kaagad kayo sa embassy or sa consulate para malaman nila na, number one, hinihintay niyo yung balota. Pangalawa, ma-update ninyo yung inyong mailing information. Okay? So, these are the things that you need to do to make sure na matanggap ninyo yung inyong mail packets.
Okay. Next question is from Reynaldo Habel. For those OFWs who are registered abroad, and have come home, tapos magpa-transfer balik to my place, ano ang form na i-fill out ko? Will my voter registration record number still be the same?
Okay, yung form na gagamitin mo, yung CF1 pa rin, pero meron kang additional form, no? Ito yung request for transfer to the local registry. So basically, dalawang forms yan, yung transfer application form, and then yung letter to the OFO requesting that you be transferred. Yung voter registration number mo, malamang sa hindi, will not be the same. No? And then you'll have to check kung ano ang identifier na ibibigay sa'yo or kung anong number. But those are the things that you need, no? The application form for transfer, and then the letter to the OFO requesting a transfer from the overseas voting system to the local.
Okay. All right. Next question is from Nelson Mendoza. Since you are mailing the packet to registered overseas voters and there is no envelope to mail back the ballot form, is email an option? Can the voter take a photo of the ballot and send it as attachment?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Can the voter email the ballot? alam mo, policy question yan eh. And then pinag-iisipan at pinag-uusapan pa rin yan hanggang sa ngayon. But don't worry, we will inform everyone when the decision comes out. But sa ngayon, ang advice sa atin, katulad nung narinig niyo sa interview kay Attorney Marin kanina, just, get an envelope. I mean, dude, it's an envelope. Kaya-kaya niya yan. But, again, kung talagang wala, please wait for the announcement kung pwede yung email. Kasi, syempre, may mga security concerns tayo. So, when we address that, we'll let you know.
Okay. Let me check if there's still a question. We still have more questions? I think that's it for now. Tama ba? Wala na tayong question.
Wala. Okay. That was a lot of overseas questions. No? I think Rox, yung ating mga kababayan overseas, they're really eager to participate in these elections, no?
Yes, I believe so too. Kasi in my case in point lang, yung sister ko, she's a nurse in Florida, and she's been asking me on how she can vote in the upcoming elections. So she's also watching now.
So ikaw na pala ang election expert sa family mo.
Hindi naman. Ako ay influence lang sa kanila to vote.
Maganda yan. And then I think dapat ganyan ang panawagan natin sa lahat ng mga kababayan natin na may mga kamag-anak overseas. No? Sana po kayo ang maging election expert sa pamilya ninyo para kayo ang pagtatanungan at para kayo din ang maghihikayat sa mga kamag-anak ninyo overseas na bumoto sa Pilipinas. Huwag nating kakalimutan na kahit nasa ang lupalop pa tayo ng mundo, Pilipino pa rin tayo at we deserve natin na marinig yung boses natin pagdating sa halalan. I think that's a very important thing that people sometimes forget, no? Pag nasa ibang bansa na sila. But I have faith and confidence na sa mga kababayan natin na hindi yan nawawalan ng malasakit para sa inang bayan. Konting effort lang talaga kailangan para makapagparehistro at makaboto. Alright? Thanks, Rob. I think we answered a lot of questions and I think that's all we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you to our viewers.
Maraming salamat po sa pagsama niyo sa amin ngayong gabi dito sa episode na ito. Kung meron po kayong mga kamag-anak na nasa ibang bansa o kaya mga kakilala, pwede niyo pong i-share sa kanila itong video na ito para ma-educate sila regarding the voter registration process for overseas Filipino voters. Para lang in case na hindi nila nasundan itong live video na ito, pwede nilang balikan. Kung meron pa po kayong mga katanungan, pwede po kayong mag-comment sa ating Facebook page or mag-message sa ating mga social media accounts or sa social media accounts ng COMELEC. So once again, we encourage you to register. We encourage you to vote. Remember that it is your right. So thank you, and we hope to see you again for another interesting topic here at Radyo COMELEC on Saturday, 9 p.m. Good night, and I hope you all stay safe.